You could have been in. You could have made it to the playoffs, but it did not happen. Now, taking a look at all of these teams, probably the worst one is the Colts. Because, look, all they needed to do was beat the Jags in order to get in Week 18. Couldn't do it there. Chargers failed to win or tie against the Raiders. The Saints, they didn't have much of a chance. Really, the Ravens didn't either, but with the way things rolled out, hey, look, the Steelers, they made it. Let's welcome back in Will Brinson here, and we're going to kind of go over these teams that almost made it, didn't quite. Let's start with the Colts. We heard from their GM today, Chris Ballard, calling that final game embarrassing, which it was. Also talking about Carson Wentz's future with the Colts. Here it is.
After Phillip retired and we made the decision to make a move on Carson, at the time of the decision, we felt good about it. And I still don't regret the decision at the time. I'm not going to, just sitting here today, just so y'all know, I won't make a comment on who's going to be here. Some good things, and there's a lot of things that he needs to do better.
All right, Will, when you hear that, what do you think?
I mean, imagine if you were, you're talking about your marriage or like a relationship. And you're like, at the time, I thought it was a good decision. I'm not going to sit here and comment on whether it was a good decision now. This is very clearly, Chris Ballard is one of my favorite GMs in the league. He's very good at his job. He is also very forthright with the media and when he speaks. And what he's saying is how he feels. If he could turn back time, he would not make that trade for Carson Wentz. I mean, they're giving up a first-round pick because of the number of snaps he played. When they needed Carson Wentz to win a game for them in Week 18 with everything on the line against the stinky Jaguars in a place they haven't won in since 2014, and with Jacksonville stopping Jonathan Taylor, Carson Wentz couldn't get it done. I know the numbers are okay, but you watch Carson Wentz play this season, and clearly he is not the guy from 2017. He had some moments, but largely a below-average quarterback. And that was an embarrassing loss. That was a devastating loss. It kicked them out of the postseason because of that. And not that we think they're going to win the Super Bowl, but you get in the playoffs, anybody's got a chance. So I don't know that they're going to move on from him. I think his contract might make that too difficult, but I do think that Chris Ballard would be interested in bringing in some competition to try and, force Carson Wentz to elevate his game, to play better. And, at the end of the day, the Colts fans want Frank Reich fired. That's not happening. Chris Ballard really likes Frank Reich, but this is definitely a mark on the resume for Reich when you're talking about that relationship between coach and GM, just because it was Reich who pushed to get Carson Wentz and bring him in because of his work with him in Philadelphia.
And what's crazy toward the end of the season, people were saying, look, the one team we don't want to face right now is the Colts. So they finished 9-8. We can give Jonathan Taylor an A, but when you look at this team as a whole over the course of their season, what grade would you give them?
So I went with a C+, and I think that's partially because they ripped off a bunch of wins. They got back into playoff contention. They started 0-3. Wentz looked like a disaster early on. You righted the ship a little bit during the season, had some moments, as I mentioned. But at the end of the day, I mean, how can you give them anything higher than that? They finish above 500, but to miss the playoffs in the fashion that they did, getting blown out by the Jaguars, a team with nothing to play for and an interim head coach and a rookie quarterback who struggled all season, to have that happen in Week 18 is, I don't want to give him an F because I think there's a lot of good pieces on here and on this team and a good coach, but geez Louise, what a disastrous ending for what looked like at times a very promising season for the Colts.
Well, not just that. The next thing we have, of course, is the NFL draft. And as you mentioned, the Colts, because of that Carson Wentz trade, do not have a first-round pick. They gave that up. Let's talk about what they do need. What is the biggest need for the Colts this offseason?
And they need a quarterback. And whether it's fixing they got a great offensive line. They have maybe the best running back in football now in Jonathan Taylor, who's just developed into a dominant rusher. They potentially losing T.Y. Hilton. I would think that's sort of a sign of a cheaper deal and keep coming back type of situation. Offensive tackle is an issue with Eric Fisher, a notable free agent. I would think he'd be amenable to returning. And then the secondary was a problem, very banged up. So they need some help there in the secondary. But I do think that quarterback, whether it's Carson Wentz improving his game or finding another option at quarterback, is definitely a top priority for the Colts because they're not going to get to the playoffs unless they get better play from Wentz or somebody else.
Do you want a sports network that delivers everything that matters about the game? The highlights, the picks, the instant analysis, no yelling, no fake debates, no politics. Hit the subscribe button and never miss a moment.